Okay, Mark meets David Mingay, Creative Director at ustwo. Hi David.
Hi there.
Can you give us a very quick summary of your career today?
Yeah, sure. Started off in product design by trade, went to Northumbria, Design for Industry course, graduated in '97 as a product designer. From there went to a place called Fitch. I think I was one day as an official product designer and then immediately went to the digital side. It's always been an interest of mine, mainly because the idea of Control Z or Apple Z to undo is much more appealing to me than going on the milling machine and making a slight mistake. And I jumped from there to Fitch, spent a couple of years at Fitch doing various projects for Coca-Cola, Sky and Swatch. Went to another company called Syzygy for just under a year, doing a similar sort of thing for Mazda and some of the automotive websites. This was the case back in the early 2000s, just during that boom and bust time. Then went to a company called Rubus, which nobody's ever heard of, but it's a small startup that was bought out by a company called Detica, and we were only 6 creatives then. During those 6 years I was there, we grew it from 6 creatives to 40, got us into the top 5 of the NMA list. Also grew a creative team in the West Country office as well, doing various government work. And after that I thought, well, enough's enough, let's do a bit of freelance work and see what's out there. And that's when I joined ustwo, initially as freelance, but now full-time. And I've been here for 2 years now, so yeah, that's, in a nutshell, that's my career.
What's the best thing for you about agency life?
I've only been at agency life, apart from a bit of stuff where I've been client-side. I think it's about the excitement and collaboration of working with people with different skill sets, but very high standard. I think if you go industry side, some of the big corporations, even though they might have design departments, you tend to there's quite a lot of challenges there, but there's quite a lot of opportunities there. But I like the fact that agency is a very much dog-eat-dog world, so the standard of people there is really high, and I think you should always surround yourself with great people that scare you a little bit, because that gives you the challenge to think, I better make sure my game's good and make sure we do the best.
How does ustwo compare to the other places that you've worked at in your career?
I think it's very similar to Fitch in a way. Design is a given. I mean, I know that sounds like an obvious comment, but sometimes with other companies I've worked for, it's something you have to fight for, and it's quite tiring to do it. Good design is a given, so you're starting at a high point.
So everyone's got an appreciation for good quality craft.
It's something that's there constantly rather than to justify. So if you work for a company like Detica, they would do great work there. There's almost a little battle you have to fight with people who are not from the design side, maybe more technology centric, that you have to get people on board that way. Inevitably you do with UCD and all that sort of stuff, but this is a given. And I think also the atmosphere here is a really great atmosphere. It's about working hard, playing hard, and getting the right things done. I think that's a really big differentiator for me.
As someone who's kind of neutral in the industry, I would say that there's a perception that ustwo are a bit of an unknown, because although there's been huge success and growth in a short period of time, you guys are known for mobile innovation, product design, R&D, a mixture of everything. How do you guys position yourself?
Yeah, so we're definitely not a marketing agency. We don't do any sort of banner stuff. We're about producing things out of a user need or a business need, or a combination of the two. So it's very much a design studio to produce a product, and I think that's key for us. And looking forward into the next level where we want to go into strategy, we're already sort of starting to, without sort of just by osmosis of the fact we've just been in mobile and sort of user experience design over the years, we're applying our trade with strategy further up the chain now. So really, what makes it's really about that ability to do things and produce things that fulfills user needs. And it's we have the thing called pixel perfect precision. We've got a document that we put on that in the blog, worth downloading. But it's down to getting the strategy right, getting the concepts right, and producing something that is absolutely joyous to use. And it's down to that pixel perfect precision that we're all about. And so
So us two don't really kind of fit into a box, I guess, because there are obviously agencies out there that are known for being user experience specialists or mobile specialists or app specialists, but us two kind of have talented people across the board.
Yeah, and we, I know some of us see us do like an app. People who do apps, we do that across. We do wherever there's an interface between a human and a screen, we're interested in it. So that might be an app, it might be TV, it might be a bit of in-car. So we're it's about all those points. So in order to do that, you do need talented people who can't. It's not just about bashing out an app to fill sort of a 3-day brief. It's about really deconstructing it, understanding business goals, and fulfilling those needs.
Do you have any embarrassing stories that have happened to you in front of clients?
In front of a client, I think I've done one of my learning processes was presenting to a very senior stakeholder for a large company, but he couldn't appear in person, and he was dialing in via satellite phone and using that same satellite phone for the data uplink, and we were presenting these really complicated scenarios, and he, as a sort of almost CEO person, didn't understand one aspect of it and just went on this diatribe for about 10 minutes, and it was just the most killer embarrassing thing, because you wanted to say, get really angry and shout back at them and say, actually you're missing the point here. Then you realise, of course, you've got to plan for the audience, and had we known that the quality of connection was that bad and all that sort of stuff, and the type of personality that was, would have done it much differently. So I think a lesson is just to obviously know your audience and know what technical constraints you're going to be hit against.
What advice would you give people that are looking to get into an agency like us two today? Because obviously skill sets are transferable, I guess, whether you graduate in product design, graphic design, or any other kind of creative backgrounds. How should people approach agencies like you guys?
I think for us, we've done quite loads of interviews fairly recently, and I think the big thing for me is the ability to sketch and show your thought process. I think that's just so key. I mean, you've got to develop that, whether you're product, interior, or branding, or graphics, or motion. It's not so much the end result; it's the thinking behind that, and the ability to iterate and do many iterations, do agile type methodology to be able to show your thoughts, show how your ideas develop, and get the ability to come up with more than one idea. They're the ones that really impress us. So we get people that come in and show us a sketchbook of their thought processes and how they got from A to B. They're the ones that make us stand up and think that's really interesting, because you can teach if you're talented enough to get to a certain level of skills at rendering stuff, but you can't. It takes a long time to get those other things. So my advice would be be able to think. Do your design thinking either in sketches or in writing, but be able to have the ability to express that really clearly.
How do you think the kind of creative industry has changed since you first entered it?
Yeah, I mean, I think my product design background has seen some really interesting changes, because even in the late 90s, early 2000s, the form was shaped by the technology, so therefore a camera was shaped because of that form. But nowadays, that has completely changed, and so you could have a rectangle as a camera. It doesn't have to allude to the functionality. It could be anything. With smartphones coming out, they can do a whole number of things that encroach across products and other technologies as well. So it's changed so much. So things are winding up massively, but that also makes it more difficult. So people tend to go down the same old hackneyed routes. So that notion of sometimes restrictions actually really focus the mind, because it allows you to really explore that small area and get something quite innovative. But when you've got something really wide, it's a little bit more difficult in a way, because there no limits sort of makes you maybe potentially a bit lazy. But I think it's really exciting, because every week something new is coming out, and something interesting with startups and all that sort of stuff means that there are fundamental disruptive technologies coming out there that are making a difference. Whether they're making money or not is another question there.
So us two now have a presence obviously in London, Malmo and New York.
Yes.
Who would you say is kind of ahead of the game? Which country's ahead of the game design-wise? Who's leading the way?
in pure design, I mean, it's a tricky one. I mean, I think generally England is a great hub for that. I think we've got a lot to be proud of, and I think it's interesting. That's why ustwo are supporting the Include Design e-back thing that the government introducing the education system to not have any of the creative subjects as part of a compulsory curriculum, and we're fighting vehemently against that because we know how creative the UK is, and I think design is very strong in the UK. We've got offices in Malmo. I think the Scandinavian Hyper Island, all that, those sort of guys. They've got some really interesting stuff, and obviously America. Maybe in obviously product design with Apple, but there's a lot of UK guys there as well. One of the strong ones. But I think we're seeing more and more that it's a mixture, and I think in the next few years it's going to be China and the BRIC nations are going to be, once they start to get their design courses established and actual design and innovation being part of their culture more, that's when you're going to see a real rise of those guys as well. What
do you think would be the main challenges talent-wise over the next couple of years? I guess here or anywhere for people that are in the kind of creative space.
I think it's exactly that. I think saying 5 years ago that product design was seen as been in the doldrums and now it's come back again. It's been really encouraging for me because I've seen a real rise in quality, and I think that's the challenge you face, is that you've got to have a real rounded set of skills about communication, sketching, idea generation, presenting, doing the production work, all that sort of stuff across multiple packages, from sketching to Photoshop to After Effects or 3D software. I think you just need to be much more well-rounded and the ability to communicate that stuff. So it's getting it ever harder. But if you get there, I think the rewards are absolutely there to be taken.
And do you find that people that are self-taught, people that have a passion to want to learn new things, want to learn about new platforms, and want to experiment with new technologies, are what more people should be doing more of? Yeah, I mean, when we interview people, there's things that impress us, and the people that do stuff off their own back and do their own, products or projects, or get involved in volunteering with, there's fix-it teams and all those sort of guys that are doing volunteer stuff, that are designing out in the community, doing hackathons and doing all that sort of stuff off their own back. Most of the people here have interest in design and developing their own stuff. I think that gives them a good stick. It just means that they just stay up again. There's a massive buzz of things that you should be aware of. You can't be aware of everything, but having that just helps you, drive you to be a better person than somebody who just does a very focused small amount of things. What's the best brand you've worked on so far in your career?
Best brand. I guess. I wouldn't say it's the best, but the most interesting was Free, because we worked with them right at the beginning, so when it was all being developed by Doug Hamilton, and seeing his presentation right at the beginning. I mean, we don't do branding here at the moment, but seeing somebody, a sort of vintage performer like he is, to sell that ideas and bringing that cultural reference of the brand to life was absolutely amazing. And then interpreting that into something, how does that manifest itself digitally? How do we get those touch points working? How do we engage the audience? For me, that's a really exciting time. I wouldn't say it's the most exciting brand now, but to be able to shape that stuff with those guys, then was absolutely brilliant.
Who inspires you creatively?
It's a bit trite, but the guys here, there's some really talented people there, and as I say, surround yourself in great people that sort of scare you. They're the people that sort of give you the kick out the backside to
keep you on your toes.
Keep you on the toes. But I like the people that are a bit of hybrid, that sort of come from unusual backgrounds. So we follow a lot. Brett Victor is an American guy. He used to work at Apple, a bit of a sort of hippie programmer, but has this naive design outlook. And if you look at his talks on he's given and his ideas. He has this naive, childlike way to look at problems, and then has the ability to solve the problems in code and graphics. And I think those hybrid people just think absolutely fascinating, because I think that is a skill set you definitely need going forward if you're going to really flourish.
Let's move on to a quick fire round.
Yep.
One word answers.
Okay.
Can Lion or D&AD pencil?
D&AD.
Olympic gold or an Oscar?
Olympic gold.
The brightest person you've ever worked with?
I've got to say Maurice Biriotti, if you don't know him.
No, where was that at?
It was at Fitch. He was a consultant. He's a great guy.
The most creative person you've worked with?
That's got to be my mate Dominic Del Torto, because he's a
Great
designer, musician, and a wit. I'll say half wit then, but.
And the best looking person you've worked with?
Oh, us two, as generally, because they're just such great looking guys.
Creatives or suits?
Creatives.
Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Degree or no degree?
It doesn't matter.
Apple or Android?
Apple, just.
Retained work or pitch work?
I like pitch work.
Web or mobile?
I'd say mobile at the moment.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Independent.
Outsourced production or on-site production?
Definitely on site.
Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
I'd say Don Draper.
And lastly, twist or stick?
Go for twist.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.